When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just
Got it.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Morris?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? John.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
the doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all and more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Thursday, almost done. What? August 18th. Happy birthday to my son, firstborn. I think he's about 28 years old today. God bless you, Hassan Peyton Glover. So we have a special guest today, Mr. Rodney Burris. Rodney's been active in the community, wants to make a difference, a young lion, if you will. But before we get to him, there are a couple of things, a couple of housekeeping notes. One, this show broadcasts Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. And we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. That's where you can catch me and my co-host, Mr. Pharaoh, the Jeremy Shepherd, who makes a cameo appearance every now and then. Also, make sure you pick up a copy of I Am Black Wall Street and Unapologetically Black. Unapologetically Black is about the interrelationship of politics and economics, particularly here in the Maryland, D.C. corridor. Talk a lot about what's happening in Prince George's County, one of the wealthiest black jurisdictions in the country. And then there's also I Am Black Wall Street. You know, we give out these Black Wall Street awards. We've given away over 2,500 awards in New York, Baltimore, DC, Richmond, Atlanta, New Orleans, Las Vegas, Birmingham, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the we would include, thank you, Mr. Pharaoh, they're making cameo appearances. Special thank you to Lee Vaughn. Lee Vaughn has been very helpful with the Black Wall Street Awards. We celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals as well as the people who support them, regardless of race. And again, to date, we've honored over 2,500 individuals. We believe that Black business is a key to growing Black America. If you've been paying attention to the border, you've seen a number of Latinos and Mexicans and Central Americans coming across the border. Unfortunately, for the Black community, we don't have a lot of Black people coming across the border. We don't have a lot of reinforcements. We are all we've got. There's a group out called We Our Us. Dr. Andre Bunley, Reverend Corey Bonds, my godbrother, Bishop Kevia Elliott, and that's their theme. That's their mantra. We Our Us. We are all we've got. So a lot of times you hear people making disparaging comments about what Black people can't do, what we haven't done. Well, I'm here to tell you that as a member of a group that comprises 13 to maybe 15, maybe 20% of the U.S. population, Black people are some dynamic people. Just to survive in this racist old America takes a monumental, if not Herculean, set of kahunas. So kudos to anybody in the Black community. This is not to knock any other community, but this is certainly to lift up my community, which has gone through everything from A to Z when it comes to oppression, whether it's health disparities, whether it's recidivism and mass incarceration, whether it's undereducation, underemployment, whether it's being overcharged for car insurance, whether it's being denied mortgages. Black people have seen it all. We've seen it all from the bottom. But more and more of us, despite all of the Jim Crow and segregation and integration and everything else that has been thrown at us, including the kitchen sink, if you're Black and in America and you still have some semblance of sanity, I salute you. Without further ado, we bring to the forefront Mr. Rodney C. Burris. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Brother Glover. I was appreciating your introduction, man, and your rundown about current events and politics, man. I remember, I tell you this story all the time. I remember being a young lion, right there in Edith's Lounge, Midtown Baltimore, man, and just looking at you and some of the names that you, Dr. Bunley, right, the senator, Larry, just watching you guys interact. And I was like, I want to have this type of impact. I want to be a part of this legacy. I want to be able to roll up my sleeves and empower my community the way these gentlemen are taking the lead. You, Doc Cheatham. I mean, it's that whole generation of leaders, man. You guys did a great job of just setting it up for people like myself, people like Faraji, people like Courtney, people like Heber Brown, right? People like Brandon. Just individuals who have watched you guys roll up your sleeves, fight the battles, be the voices, speak against all odds. So I commend and I salute that legacy, man. And it's an honor to be here.
Well, let's talk about some of the things you've done. You've been helping people realize how to become different and better.
Yes, sir.
Their circumstances, their background, their conditions, and you help them by helping them focus on the simple changes that achieve big goals. They say that the beginning to a million-mile journey, it all starts with the first step. So your track record has been one of assisting numerous companies with team building, communication, data evaluation, program development, and these are no chump companies. Fiat, Chrysler, Mannheim, Monster, Rachel's Challenge, Smart, Baltimore Education Coalition, Community College of Baltimore County, speakers. Let's start with Pam Perry out there in Detroit. Let's start with Pam Perry.
So Pam Perry for me came out of nowhere. Now, little did I know that she has been the megalithic Pam Perry making his impact in the world of media for forever. Right? I didn't know this. I got connected through her through Brian J. Olds, who is, as you know, Doni, he's the CEO of Black Speakers Network, based right here in Baltimore. I think they just hit 17,000 international members all over Atlanta, London, Ghana, Jamaica, South Africa, Baltimore, DC, Chicago. And for a few years, people were like, "Hey, Rod, do you know Brian? You heard of Brian? You got to connect with Brian J. Olds." And I'm like, "I don't know this cat, but I would love to." And one day, a gentleman said that to me off of Harford Road. I was inside of this shared workspace. And he said, "You know Brian?" I was like, "Man, I've heard this 1,000 times." He said, "Wait there." He called Brian. Turns out Brian is in here in B-more, man. So Brian and I have been connected for a while. Through connected with Brian, they did a Speakers Magazine takeover. I've heard about Speakers Magazine prior to then. And for those that don't know, it's about the size of a jet magazine, right? Les Brown has been on the cover. And Cookie Johnson, Magic Johnson's wife, and Cheryl Williams, and Dr. I mean, you just name the people, right? That there's been some major people on there. So we had an opportunity to be a part of that. I jumped on it. And Doni, Pam ripped me a new one. She was like, "Rodney, you have it. You have what it takes. You got the it factor, but you got to step up." She was like, it was raggedy. Then that was the word that she used. She said raggedy. And it was very humbling, man. But it was then that I knew that Pam was somebody that I wanted to be connected to, right? She spoke about me, and this was a public setting, right? This was online, broadcasted out over the networks, and she was talking like this, because they was doing a Speakers Magazine reveal. And I realized that it was coming from a place of love. And so I tied into her, you know, and I just made myself humble and available. And I mean, it brought me full circle. I remember when she started name dropping people all over the city. And I remember the first time she name dropped Donnie Glover. And I was like, I know that one. I know that name, right? I may not know some of those other big hitters that she said, but when she said yours, I was like, oh yeah, well, he's an institution. Matter of fact, Donnie, I just was on a show yesterday. I was doing my 1 o'clock show, and there was a young lady on there, and your name came up, and her words were this: oh yeah, everybody in Baltimore knows Doni. That's exactly how she said it. Everybody, but that's my truth. I've never been anywhere that people didn't know you. Anyway, I could go into stories about that.
To God be the glory.
Yes, sir. It's impact. But speaking of impact, man, you pulled up that book about Black Wall Street. And this is something that has kind of been a pet project of mine, Doni. So kind of different from my work. A few years ago, somebody hit me to some information that there were founding fathers that were Black. And I was like, what are you talking about? Right? Like that doesn't make
of the United States.
Of the United States that were Black. And I'm like that. I done taken some of your AP and your honors U.S. history through school. I went.
You're not going to learn it. You're not going to get it in their schools. It's not their job to teach you your history. It's our job.
And so I started looking into it. Right, it sparked my interest. Not only did I learn about some, completely different narratives about our story that we are not going to get in the traditional school settings. Doni, there are 14 presidents before George Washington. I showed my son goes to Poly. Shout out to Polytechnic Institute of Baltimore. For those that don't know, Polytechnic Institute is one of the top 5% schools in the country. I didn't know that. Doni, I got a city and Poly household. My daughter goes to city. My son goes to Poly. Those are big rivalry schools, everybody here in Beeble. But both Poly and City are top 5% in the country, man, of high schools. I didn't know that. I knew they were good in Beemore. I didn't know their national impact like that. But he and I were, maybe going to the grocery store run the other day, but it was nighttime before the snow. And what I said to him, I said, son, let me hold your phone. Doni, I pulled his phone up and I said, hey, Google, how many presidents were there before George Washington? According to such and such and such, there were 14 presidents of the United States before. Why in the world are we not taught this? Why in the world is that not shown? How that
because the victors get to tell the story.
That's right, man. That's right.
We don't even know who we are.
Yeah, man.
Most of us believe, for instance, that we are the descendants of Africans who were brought here by way of slavery.
Speak on it, Doni. Speak on it, brother.
But if we knew our history, we would know that we were in this hemisphere thousands of years.
Yes, sir.
If we knew our history, we would know that the oldest bones, for instance, ever found in South America are 12 to 14,000 years old. And that's why I had to write this book, I Am Black Wall Street, because so much of our history has been hidden from us, has been distorted.
That's right.
Has been twisted.
That's right.
To make somebody else look important. Just like when you watch Charlton Heston play Moses, or you watch a white woman play Cleopatra. When you watch people take our story.
That's right.
People always want to take our story. They want to take the fatness of our lips. They want to take the wideness of our nose and chop it off. They want to take the melanin and put it in a bottle and sell it to you.
Sell it. They want to go get tan.
But they hate us. But they hate us.
They don't want to be us, but they want to be us. Yeah, man. That's a big part of the story.
Well, if you know your history, you know the oldest DNA comes from Namibia, Southern Africa. That means that every human being If you are a human being, your DNA goes back to Africa. Now, if you are a descendant of a Cro-Magnon or one of those cavemen, then I'm not all that versed on cavemen, Neanderthals. But if you are human, you come from ultimately Southern Africa. And they weren't jet black. They were actually lighter than you and I, and they had eyes like this. So here's something else. When people tell you black people have Chinese eyes, the truth of the matter is Chinese have black people eyes.
That's right.
But you would only know that if you studied your history.
That's right. Because
like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, he is of the San Bushman tribe, the oldest DNA on earth.
Yes. The Khoisan, the people that where we got all of our Japanese, Chinese, that whole Asia Pacific. So here's the deal, Donnie. Everything that you routed it off. I'm so impressed. I've been looking at this stuff now for a few years. You just routed off a few years of bullet points just like that. From the Khoisan people down in Southern Africa to the oldest bones found in the Americas, to the establishment of civilizations that were here in the Americas of black people, to the fact that for most black people here in the Americas are not directly connected to Africa, but for the most recent thousands of years, there were towns, cities, establishments that were already here. I remember, what's the guy?
We could be prisoners of war, Rodney, more so than descendants of slaves.
That's a better way to look at it. That's what happens to a conquered people, Donnie. Right? That's what happens.
We were already here. We were already here. Nobody talks about what was happening in North America in the year 1300 or 1200. Life was going on. There were towns. There are 450 mound pyramids across these United States.
Memphis,
the Egyptians were here. You can go to Las Vegas and see the Luxor Hotel. And any conscious person would have to ask themselves, why do these white people have an Egyptian-themed hotel shaped like a pyramid in the middle of the desert? Well, maybe it has something to do with Kincaid's Cave there in the Grand Canyon.
Sure.
When you go looking in there and you find Egyptian artifacts, you realize that the Egyptians have been here.
Yes, sir.
Long before Christopher Columbus was even a thought.
Man, I had no idea we was gonna go this direction today, man. I tell you, this is a passion project of mine. I make my kids watch so I actually have a video channel where I talk about some of this stuff. And one of my most viral videos was a snippet from Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, shout out to Anthony Slater. What do you say? Good morning, fam. Much love from Darlington, South Carolina, aka Mule. What's going on, Tony? So Donnie, one of my most popular videos was Isaiah Thomas. He was doing NBA on TNT halftime show. It was during Black History Month. It was him, Chris Webber, and I think the guy's name is Baron Davis. I think that was his name. But long story short, Isaiah said, before we go to break, can I say this? He said, I know this month is about our history. He was like, but our history goes much broader than February, and it goes much broader than 1492. He was like, there was civilization in America before 1492, and that's our legacy. He was like, we didn't just start here when they got here. We've always been here. That's one of my most viral videos. I took that snippet out and I put that out there. This information, I don't know why it's coming out. You know, I shared something with my wife this morning, scrolling through videos. I was cutting my hair, trying to get purdy for the camera with you, Donnie, today, man. And I was cutting my hair. There's a snippet on, first of all, I didn't even know South Park still made episodes. Right? I've never really been a South Park kind of guy. I think it's poorly drawn. I think it's a little crude for my taste. Not really my kind of thing. I'm just scrolling social media. Somebody put up a snippet talking about how you just said if you look at Charlton Heston, you would think that was Moses when that's really our culture. I remember, wait, let me do South Park real quick. So the snippet, Donnie, was one of those cartoons telling another one of the cartoons, you know that those people, the Israelites, they were black people. you know their story has been changed and taken by different people who weren't Hebrew. You know they call themselves Jews now. But because it's South Park and because they say any crazy thing out their mouth, it's ha ha ha, they do anything. And it's South Park. And the truth is like right there out in front of us, man. But unless we tune into shows like yours, right? Unless we choose to really dig into things or be around parents like my poor kids who like, come here, sit down, watch this. I can't educate the world and y'all be ignorant. We'll never know going through traditional learning systems, man. And I just find that's a big part of making people different and better for me.
Do you know anything about the Moors?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my other most viral videos was about
it's very interesting that the descension of the Moors in Spain and Portugal, that's called the Iberian Peninsula. It's very interesting that their demise happened just before Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand
getting them ships over
conquered the last Moor. I think his name was Tariq, I'm not sure, but he lived in the Alhambra. The Alhambra is the big castle over there in Spain. Now, no one will ever tell you that the black people built that castle. But anyway, they faced the last Moor out of Spain, and the Moors were there in Spain and Portugal for 800 years.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand the impact? I mean, we understand the impact that racist white people have had on America over the past 400 years. Can you imagine the powerful impact of those beautiful black people who taught the Spaniards and the Portuguese, for instance, how to bathe, how to cook food, how to build irrigation systems.
Running water. Yes, sir. University.
Running water.
Yes, sir.
Taught them to navigate ships.
Yes, sir.
See, they don't tell you about Pedro Nino Alonso, who actually drove Christopher Columbus to this part of the world. We had been coming here. Yes, if you look down in Mexico and you look at those Olmec heads.
Yes, sir.
Weighing thousands of pounds.
Those are black faces, Donnie. Those are
Now, they took my Facebook page because one of the facts I had on there was that the Olmec heads, they were African. And I don't know why I got into this. I don't know why I got in this back and forth with this some people from Mexico that wanted to tell me that them people with them big noses and them big lips were Mexican. And I'm saying, son, you sniffing too much of that powder, son. They're black. They're very black.
They're very black, Donnie. They're very
when
black.
You look at the the Aztecs and the Incas, when you look at those paintings, those people got melanin, baby. They brown. They brown, baby.
They're brown with locks, Donnie.
You ain't that brown, son. I know you want to be, but you're not.
Man, Donnie, let me tell you something.
This is the original, baby. This is the OG. And we got to be proud of this. Right. I still meet people, Rodney.
Yeah.
Who may be dark skinned, and I hear the story and it just stabs me in the stomach, in the back, and the side. And they said, I didn't want to be dark when I was younger. I was ashamed of my blackness. I was ashamed of my brownness. And that's why I had to write that book, the first one, Unapologetically Black. We should be proud to be black. Proud to be black. I wouldn't want to be anything but black. Thank God you made me black. Black, brown, whatever you want to call it. Molasses, caramel. It's beautiful to me, baby. It's beautiful to me, baby.
We talking that same copper color.
We got to encourage each other because this is a mean, racist world that tries to make us feel so badly for nothing because they got low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you something else. I want you to be clear about this. In this second book, there are two heroes.
Okay.
One hero is obviously a black man. His name is Chief John Horse. He was a black Indian.
I like that.
The other hero is my main man, 500 grand, John Brown. John Brown's a white man.
Okay.
And so when I get to heaven, I want to see my parents, my grandparents, Harriet Tubman,
And
Toussaint
John Brown.
Louverture, Chief John Horse, and also John Brown. Because John Brown, you know, he started the Civil War.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know
Oh
that.
my God. He did a raid on Harper's Ferry.
Oh, that was him. Yeah, I'm familiar with the raid on Harper's Ferry. That was
John Brown.
Okay.
He was busting. John Brown made Kansas safe for black people.
Oh, okay. I'm
If
familiar.
you watch basketball, they got a team called the Kansas Jayhawkers. The Jayhawkers were those who were not for slavery. As new states came into the Union, they had to decide if they were going to be a free state or a slave state.
Wow.
And Kansas was determined to be a free state, thanks to the likes of people like John Brown. And he got killed for black people. He died fighting for black people. John Brown, popping that on. Freedom ain't free. Freedom ain't free, baby.
Freedom ain't free, Donnie.
Let me tap your brain for a second. Tell me about the Middle East. Have you been following what's going on in the Gaza Strip?
I not heavily, man. So the Middle East for me, before and I, if we can, I definitely want to get back to some of this we were talking about with our history, but just to touch on the Middle East real quick. It first of all, Heber Brown, shout out to him again, and Janine, absolutely. Miss Goody White, absolutely. Thank you for joining our conversation. Heber Brown did a presentation. He went over to the Middle East for a little bit. This was years ago, man, more than a decade ago. And he came back and he did a little talk about his trip at his church. I took my kids and we went out there and just sat in his audience, man. And he said, "Let me tell you, this is like no other oppression of a people than I've ever seen in my life." I never thought about the narrative of what could be going on over there in Israel, that Gaza Strip, the Palestinian people, etc., from an oppressive type of approach, because the narrative on mainstream media is that Israel is in the right, they're surrounded by a bunch of enemies, and you know all of this bad stuff is going on. But
the Palestinians are the black people of the Middle East.
Yes, sir, and they're getting treated as such. They're getting treated.
Understand that. I understand that Gaza Strip, that land is very valuable. There are those that would want to put a canal through there, like the Suez Canal. There's some people, including America and Great Britain and Israel, that would like to wipe the Gaza Strip off the map and make it into a river.
South Africa just brought that case.
South Africa ain't playing. And that's the home of apartheid next to the United States.
Right.
America is the home of apartheid. Don't get that twisted.
Right.
Then comes South Africa. South Africa, because Nelson Mandela, see, Israel financed the oppression of blacks in South Africa.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. They ain't playing. And they didn't forget their history. A little boy asked me once.
Yeah.
Hey, Donnie, why you always talking about history? If you don't know your history,
yeah,
then you don't know where you fit in. You don't know the score. You only know what somebody else tell you. So when you see the King of England or the King of Belgium, or you see that Belgium had a firebombing, and you change your Facebook profile picture, I stand with Belgium, and you don't understand anything about King Leopold and what he did in the Congo, how he cut my people's hands off, how he cut my people's feet off.
Come on, Donnie.
That's what happens when you don't know your history. You become an idiot.
Come on. And you speak, ill-advisedly. Those atrocities were crazy. So here's what I did.
Speak against your own ancestors.
Your own that suffered that stuff, right? At the hands. So here's the deal.
Because you're so busy trying to wear Louis Vuitton and trying to impress some racists who don't like you no way. But you slick.
That's a tough reality. So there's a gentleman, a president of Egypt by the name of Gamal Abdel Nasser. And he was a president in the 1950s, 1955 to like 1964, something like that. Well, he is quoted in the Times magazine. Now, you know Time is a big deal, Donnie. 1955, Time magazine, they were asking, because Israel as this new nation was founded in 1947, right? So he's a president in 1955. Wars ever since they got in there. And so he was interviewed, 1955 Time magazine, and they said, will there ever be peace? When can we ever have a ceasefire? And he said this in the Times magazine: the Jews of Israel will never be able to live here in peace because they left black and came back white. That's in the Times magazine, Donnie. That's in the Times magazine, Donnie. What part of world history? I told you I done took the best of the courses, bro.
We don't know about the fallacious. We don't know about the fallacious Jews out of Ethiopia who are not welcome in Israel. We don't understand that the oldest Bible known to man is found in Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
We don't understand the significance of Ethiopia. We don't understand our history. We don't understand that every country in Africa has been colonized except Ethiopia, other than a 2-year occupation by Mussolini. But the Ethiopians, say what you want,
they were
oldest airline in Africa. The Ethiopians, King Haile Selassie, I, Rasta till the day I die.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We don't understand the interconnectivity of Ethiopia and Jamaica.
Yeah.
The prophecy of a Robert Nesta Marley and the advocacy and effectiveness of a Marcus Mosiah Garvey, organizer of the largest organization of black people in the world, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, with a thick Jamaican accent. Wagwan! Wagwan to me people in Jamaica. We don't understand Haiti.
Yeah.
You will never hear anything good about Haiti in your lifetime, Rodney. Do you know why?
They've done some amazing things for their people.
Do you know why?
Talk to me.
You will never hear anything good about Haiti because the Haitians, starting with Toussaint Louverture, and then with Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and then with Henry Christophe, they put the mash on Napoleon.
They did, bro.
They spanked that ass.
They did. Got him up out of there.
Spanked that ass.
That's right.
And they still paying restitution to this day.
I was about to say, and they ended up suffering horribly for it. But see, the beautiful thing about it, so I was taught, Donnie, unfortunately, not to be pro-black, right? I was taught to not necessarily be ashamed of it, but to downplay it. I was taught to focus very heavily on all things connected to Jesus, the church, and don't even acknowledge anything about being a black person who God made me to be.
Rodney.
Right?
That's very unfortunate.
That's how I was taught. And so it wasn't until I got to college, so this is 1999, 2000, I'm new on Hopkins campus, and I'm running into gentlemen like Claude and Mark King and Rehan, and shout out to those guys, man. Me and Wes Moore went to college together. Shout out to those guys, Will Davis. And so that was the first time, one, that a person referred to me and themselves as a man. Prior to then, I was on a boys track team, played boys basketball, boys bathroom, and it wasn't racial. We were just young. That was the first time that it was like, oh no, this is the men's locker room. This is the group of black men meeting on Hopkins campus. It blew my mind, Donnie. I was 18. It was the first time I was ever exposed to that. The second thing was these concepts around knowledge of self, right? That was the first time I was introduced to those kind of things. The reason why it's important to me at this stage of my career is because I meet people who honestly believe that they are the descendants, not of enslaved people, but of slaves. And that, Donnie, is a very different distinction.
Not all black people were slaves. Did you know that, Rodney?
I know that, right? And that's part of what I'm trying to create and release.
There's some people who had no history whatsoever of slavery.
And that ties me full circle to this whole idea of the Black Wall Street, because what I've been learning is that it wasn't just Tulsa. It was hundreds around this continent. Hundreds.
East Texas had 500 black towns alone. East Texas.
Didn't realize that, Donnie. And this is not taught to us.
Oklahoma had 70 to 80 black towns. And I would imagine Kansas had even more, but we would never know that because they did the Willie Lynch thing on us. Light skin versus dark skin, young versus old, kinky hair versus straight hair, male versus female, down south versus up north.
Then you're going to change the census, right? So Donnie 10 years ago is going to be Negro. Then 10 years before that, he's going to be colored. Then 10 years before that, he might be Choctaw. right? And 10 years before that, and so we just keep changing that. Now he got to identify in the 80s as African American on the census.
As we're learning, I would imagine it would change. I understand my history better now at 58 than I did at 8 years old. I know I got Taino. I know I got Blackfoot. I know I got Boricua, Puerto Rican. I know I got black, and it's probably some white cat.
Yeah, he's
looking around because my grandmother was very light skinned, as was my mother, even fairer skinned. But I don't know them white people. They haven't made their presence known, so I can't acknowledge what I don't know.
You probably done scared them off, man. But my point is this, though.
Maybe not, because not all white people are racist. There's some beautiful white people. There's some very beautiful white people. Because it's really not about race. It's really not about race. In the beginning of the show, Dr. Zollicoffer talks about it being about class. They're upwardly mobile black people that wouldn't do anything to help poor black people. We have them in office today. We have them in position today. We have them in as gatekeepers today. Black people who would not hold the door open for another black person, as did a Harriet Tubman. Shame on them. And they have college degrees, bachelor's, master's, PhDs, and dumb as horse shit. Ain't got no common sense. Book sense with no common sense. So you can get all the education in the world, but if you're an idiot, absolutely. You are a problem. You are a problem for your people. And this cat who was on here, Mule, he mentioned Whitmore Avenue. See, where I grew up, you had some people. You had a soldier battalion in the neighborhood.
Really?
And these were the cats that went to other neighborhoods and were conquerors. Because over there around North and Warwick, you had to fight. So everybody had their role.
Everybody had their role. Okay, I hear you, man. So that you mentioned about how I'm doing this work and about being different and better, right? And for me, what I started running into, right, was because my favorite spots to be are my Phillies, my Detroits, my Baltimores, my DC, my Jacksonville, Florida, my El Pasos, right? So around my people. Then I've had the opportunity to be in South Africa, in classrooms, talking to my people, in Jamaica, talking to my people. And I'm seeing the connection and the oneness around the diaspora, right? The connection. I remember being in Italy, Doni, and seeing the brother, Senegalese dude, selling paintings on the side of the road. And I walked, it was kind of drizzling, rainy, right? And he's kind of packing up his stuff. And I looked at him and he gave me the what's up. That brother speaks French and about 3-4 other languages up out of Africa. We said nothing but everything in that moment, being in the middle of Florence on that little rainy afternoon. It's a connection. I remember sitting on the back of cars playing basketball in South Africa in a hood called Takoza down there. After we finished hooping, they grilling up food, meat. I don't know what kind of meat. Listen, the teacher don't ask a whole bunch of questions, Donnie. Don't ask a bunch of questions, right? So they grilling up the meat. We sitting down. They playing hip hop, like Mobb Deep hip hop, and we sitting around, right? And some of these guys, you done been around them. Some of them guys got some experiences and some notches, some tears on their face for a reason. But some of them guys were just regular old cats. But it felt like being in any hood, anywhere, man. And so what I realized that in order for me to really help us be different and better, achieve our greater self, the term that they use, self-actualize, you have to know that you are not simply a person whose grand was shackled at the bottom of some dirty ship. You got to know that
was the case.
That might not be your history at all. You got to know that it's more than just Tulsa. You got to know that Central Park was really called Seneca Village and was wiped out, and it was all black. And they got them out of there, and it was wealthy. They got them out of there to put a park there because the city needed it. You got to know that there's towns around South Carolina around this that's been flooded over. And now there are lakes under different names. And if you go down 30, 40, 50, 60 feet in a lake, you got buildings in this country. And it's important to know that. It's important to know that some of your people were founding fathers, that the constitution of this current government was copied from a government that was already in place. Because once you realize that you have growth in that capacity, then you can hear some of my other stuff. then you view your own self differently and better. I'm showing you a mirror of who you were and who you can be, and it hits differently, man. I can't even believe we're talking about this today, bro.
One that doesn't know his history doesn't know where he's going.
Yeah, man.
And you don't know the game that has been played.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw when the Haitians came across the border about a year and a half ago, they were met by men on horseback with whips.
Bro, did you see that? Oh, man. That hurt, bro. That hurt. That hurt. That hurt. That
Meanwhile, thousands upon thousands of
Mexicans.
Central and South Americans are coming across the border every day. And what's wild is that Donald Trump is the only one who said anything about it.
That is wild. You know, I got a clip of Donald Trump, man, that I've discovered, and they was trying to ask him why was he trying to qualify for the congressional grant money for some of his casinos and stuff like that. It was like the stuff that you applied for is earmarked for Native Americans. In the Congress, this is a clip, Donnie. The congressman says to Donald Trump, this is in the 80s, "You don't look Native American to me, Donald. How are you trying to apply for this?" And Donald said, he had a very different tone back then, not the kind of arrogant, blustery, persona that he has now, but what
asshole,
right, that he is now, right? But what he was saying in that clip, Donnie, was, "Respectfully, sir, I hear you." He was like, but and he was pointing to people that weren't on camera. He was like, "When I look at this gentleman here who qualifies and this gentleman here who qualifies, they don't look like Native Americans to me." He was like, "We know what Native people look like to this place. They don't look like that. So if they can qualify, why can't I?" Now, what he didn't say in that snippet was, those are white people and they don't look black. He didn't say that, and we don't know who he was pointing to, right? I don't know who he might have been pointing to. Siberian.
Oh, he's got a certain genius, but I also know that karma is real. And I know when you go around being mean to people, sooner or later it comes around and bites you in the butt.
Karma's real. Karma's a real deal, man. Karma's a real deal. You know what?
But he's one sick puppy, and unfortunately, he represents damn near half of this country.
That's how he got elected, bro. Those sentiments started bubbling
Or at
up.
least half of the voters in this country, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so what's next for you, Rodney?
What's next for me? Right now, I have a contract with the Federal Department of Education. Mm-hmm. So they have 4,000 employees within the department. Their senior leadership is a few hundred of them. I'm training their senior leaders around emotional intelligence, something called power skills. So power skills is soft skills back in the day, but it's being repackaged because soft skills get overlooked. Soft skills aren't necessary. What we are realizing, as we should have always known, is that those interpersonal skills are what's necessary for leadership, right? So power skills, emotional intelligence, communication styles, team building, that's my biggest contract right now. We are about to launch a course, online course called Radically Inclusive Leadership, right? So I already shot the video for it. We're going to put it up on Teachable for people. And it's this whole idea that getting the best out of my people is really about me doing my own self-work, what I call homework, right? This home base right here. So me doing the homework is really the key to getting the best out of my whatever relationship, my kids, my spouse, my girlfriend, my staff, my colleagues, my co-workers, whatever it is. If I want better out of them, I got to become different and better. So the same thing, right? The same thing, but now it's kind of reflected back on the self as opposed to what you got to do, Because everybody can do that all day long. But I'm ready now to embrace us doing it for us, by us. Shout out to Fubu.
Okay, you said earlier you had a wife. Now you said you got a girlfriend. I mean, which one?
Oh, man, I was just rattling off relationship types.
Okay.
I'm just rattling off relationship types, man.
Okay, we want to keep it a buck here. Tell us about your show on the BlackUSA.News Network.
Absolutely, man. So Wednesdays at 1 p.m., everybody. I come on here on Black USA News. I have great conversations. I've met some phenomenal people. A lot of them I have met through Pam Perry. And so some of those individuals, I either invite them to my platform or I go to their platform and I just share our conversation here with us. And we talk about all of the things. One of the things that I like about Doni's platform is what he just said. We keep it a buck, right? And so I had no idea that Doni and I were going to go here today. That's what the conversations are like, though, right? There's a vibe, there's a resonance, right? Quick little parallel, Doni. You know, sometimes I love to tell this story about being in a big room, right? 2 big grand pianos in this room. The hood is open on both of them. We go over to one piano, we hit the note, do. We look under there, that string just vibrating, right? It's going. All the rest of them are still. We go over to the next piano. All of those strings are still, except for that same note. That string's vibrating. And that's because it's something called resonance. Truth resonates with people. And there's a shared resonance. There's a shared truth. And so what I find that I appreciate about being a part of Black USA News is that being a part of real conversations that can go in so many different directions, right? But not only is it resonant truth between us and whoever we're conversing with at the time, but a lot of times it's exactly what people need in those moments, right? That's been my experience as a speaker, as an author, as traveling, doing these trainings. Where we go, it seems to organically arise and be meat for the time. And so, yeah, Wednesdays, 1 o'clock. If you enjoyed this and my little crazy analogies, you know, these are the type of conversations that are had right here on this network. And also, man, STEM City in the metaverse, man. We out there. We Black USA showing up. How did we get that, Doni? Tell me a little bit about that.
I was hoping you would tell me about your experience with
the
Dr. Tyrone Tate, with Dr. Tyrone Tate on, with Nikki and Ray and the Family and Career Communications Group. I mean, we just had an event down at the Reginald Lewis Museum to welcome Bea back to Baltimore. The mayor was there, the city council president. You were there. What did you experience?
Man, so first of all, I wasn't an engineer, right? When I was in college, the big engineering organization for Blacks was NSBE. That's the only thing I knew about. And then I got out of that engineering.
NSBE?
NSBE.
National Society of Black Engineers.
Absolutely. And my homeboy Frank was a big player nationally for NSBE, right? So he's flying and traveling, and that was my exposure to NSBE. But I got out of that. That wasn't my world, engineering. So a few years ago, when I started hearing again about this Bea, it was kind of under the current for me. I didn't really know what it was about. Going to that event last night, hearing Dr. Taborn say that Bea stood for Be Everything You Are.
Well, it's initially Black Engineer of the Year Awards. I want you to know that.
He changed it a little. Right. But he changed
it a lot. It's Black Engineer of the Year Awards. And he would celebrate Black engineers in every industry possible, including the military.
Yes.
You saw a lot of the state police who were there at this reception, but at the actual event, Bea, you've got Navy people, Marines, Air Force, U.S. Army, Coast Guard. You have engineers in all of those branches of the military. You have Lockheed Martin, Martin Marietta, and every Fortune 500 company that deals with defense, that deals with anything STEM related, science, technology, engineering, and math. You find the best and the brightest, and they're Black. Remember that movie? They're Black. They're Black. They're Black.
It was so nice, man. It was so well put together. The DJ was great. You know, just the way that he kind of blanketed the atmosphere and that warm applause, and the music and his mixes, and the food was good, and everybody was dressed looking like excellence. You know, it was a really, really phenomenal experience. And the one military young lady, the Black woman. So you said that those were state troopers?
She runs the state police.
I mean, I would have never known. And so if it's not for organizations like Bea, right, that's holding, and that was just a reception before we even got to their big conference coming up next month. But Black Engineer of the Year awards, just that kind of recognition. We need it, man. We need it. Thank you so much for giving me that shout. I definitely registered. I didn't know if anybody was going to be there because, you know, we had the weather conditions up here in Bmore, but people showed up. People showed up, and it was a classy event, man. It makes me proud. It makes me proud to be a part.
Yeah, well, Dr. Taborn has been doing it for 38 years. It hasn't been in Baltimore for 13 years. So 14 years later, they're bringing Bayer back to Baltimore. And it speaks also to, unfortunately, Baltimore's lack of support of all things black. Now, Brandon Scott, the mayor, said some very powerful things. He said, this is a black city. We want to be known for black excellence. And I appreciate that.
He said it right there for everybody.
It's not often that you hear a young man, a young black man mayor, and this is no endorsement of anybody. I'm not in this election. But it is so beautiful to hear a young black man speak in an unapologetically black manner.
Unapologetic, Doni. He said anything.
It is refreshing because so often we hear our elders doing that step and fetch it.
Yeah.
You know, acting like, you know, we in the Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith with wide eyes and big lips and eating watermelon. It is very powerful imagery to see a black man unapologetically celebrate his blackness and his people's blackness in a black city. I just want to know why we got so many goddamn bike lanes. Because I don't see nobody riding no damn bikes. And you're slowing my transportation up going from East Baltimore to West Baltimore for a lane of traffic that nobody's in. Nobody's in these lanes.
Nah, man. It's killing us.
And you need to fix Fulton Avenue because Fulton Avenue is like a goddamn roller coaster ride. Fix these potholes, son.
Yeah, but right there in that
and let's get on these vacants. You still got people, firefighters getting killed in vacants, and that's simply unacceptable. You know, the day that we lost 3 emergency personnel in the vacant down here. Now I'm in Sandtown, but this was down, I think, around Poppleton, Harlem Park, on Stricker Street. 3 people got killed unnecessarily, and I don't see enough of a push to get rid of these vacants. You got landowners, property owners who have vacant properties. Take their property.
You got to get out of there.
Because you're already hemming people up with these water bills. Do you live in Baltimore City?
I do. Yes.
How much is your water bill each month?
Well, you know, it come every couple of months, man. It's hundreds of dollars. I don't even know, but it's up there. It's up there.
It's like I'm not drinking that much water, son. I should be, but I'm not drinking that much water. I'm not taking that many. I'm not washing that many clothes.
Right.
Why is my water bill $250, son?
That's right. Dang, your water bill about high as ours, bro. I got a house full of people. You got a house full of people?
Yeah. No, it's just me and the German Shepherd, Pharaoh.
Bro, your water bill that's about almost my bill, bro.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's high, man.
So you got this mass corruption in Baltimore. Let me ask you, who do you like in the election?
I do like Brandon. I like Brandon for a couple of different reasons. I don't agree with him on everything, right? So Brandon and I worked at Big Brothers Big Sisters in the mid 2000s, right? He's a few years younger than me. Hey, Rod, I'm gonna start helping the community get in politics. And I'm like, all right, B, right? Like his name in my phone is still saved as Brandon BBBS, Big Brothers Big Sisters, right? That's still his phone number in my phone. And I remember every now and then he would talk to me, right? He came up out of, I think he was the UMES or so, I forgot where he went. St. Mary's. But he was fresh out of college. He always talked about Mervo. And he always talked about wanting to help the community, right? And I remember when he was like, well, Councilman Stephanie said I could volunteer for our campaign. And I'm like, okay, B. Because I knew that I was moving into the political realm. And the way he was talking about it wasn't like the big plans that me and my team was making. So I was like, okay, that's cool. That's cool, little bro. Like, I hear you. And lo and behold, like he got up under there with Stephanie, and the rest is history, right? The way he moved. But here's what I'm talking about. When nobody was around, when me and him ain't had to think about a soundbite or a camera, and we in that big old warehouse that's been renovated, Clipper Mill, down in that part of Bmore, seeing him interact with the young people, the kids, the ladies that work there. I know the type of person Brandon is, right? I done played ball with this cat before we really started jumping out into the city for. As a matter of fact, I jumped out a little bit before he did. So back before he even was Brandon Scott, I played ball with this cat. I was in the hallways with this cat. I know the type of character he is. So even if I disagree with some of his decisions or choices, I know the place that it's coming from, right? That's the exact same thing I say about Wes. I know that I ate chicken wings with this guy, and chicken wings don't make you a good person, but the combos around tells who you are. I know what it's like when the only thing that's on our mind is turning in midterm, right? Not any pressures from no national, local news. When the biggest thing on our mind is, can we get through finals week, right? Where y'all gonna go? Y'all gonna go home? I know the conversations we was having at Terrace. It's a cafeteria. Woman, that's a cafeteria. It's a basketball court. So with Wes, with Brandon, I'm comfortable with pushing them, with giving them the opportunity to continue to be who they are, because I know where they're coming from. They're going to make some effed up mistakes. They definitely are. But who won't? Who's not? Right? So I'm willing to ride with those guys, man.
Okay. That'll have to be the final word. Any final thoughts you want to plug, or I'll give you the screen and
Yes, sir. All right, I'm gonna say this very quickly. Okay. One of my favorite quotes.
You just got to end it off with "Good morning, quotes. World." You just got to end this off with "Good morning, world." Okay.
I'll say "Good morning, world." Absolutely, absolutely. I'm very grateful for Doni. Doni for me is a big legacy maker, and to be able to kind of be here in his shadow, under his tutelage, is amazing. One of my favorite quotes is, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't really understand it well yourself." That's a quote from the genius known as Albert Einstein. For me, Doni exemplifies these major problems, struggles that are in our community in a very simplistic, basic, forthright way. And it kind of embodies that quote for me. So if you liked our conversation, if you want to be connected to me, you see my name here is at Rodney C. Burris. That's how I am on every social media you could think of: the TikTok, the LinkedIn, the YouTube, the Twitter. My website is RodneyCBurris.com. My email address is info@RodneyCBurris. I would love to stay connected. Doni, I'm grateful for your legacy, big brother. And to everybody out there, good morning, world.